Please be seated. This is a provocative text. Now, you don't catch that right away, but this is a provocative text. A man is possessed by demons, legions of them, and Jesus sent them into an entire herd of swine. Upon hearing from such a tormented, possessed, naked man, who, upon Jesus setting foot on the lakeshore, yells out, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" Jesus answered him by damning the demons and seeing, loving, healing, restoring, and saving this man. And now that's where it gets a little complicated. Because the swineherds ran into the village and told people what they just saw happen to the pigs. And when the people come out to Jesus, they're furious. Well, why? Well, I'll tell you. In today's market, let's assume there's 100 pigs in the herd. They would have fed that whole town for years. Now what? Also, at today's price, a single whole hog costs between $600 and $750. Let's cut it in the middle. $675 times 100. $67,500 were just destroyed. So then imagine how upset you'd be to hear that your lake was suddenly polluted by 100 pigs. The pollution would be rank. And also, what if you're that farmer who just lost your entire herd of pigs? How do you raise money now to replace them? How do you provide for your family, let alone for that town that you were raising them for in the first place, which I had just mentioned? How will you do that? And then, what about the cultural clash that this Jewish rabbi Jesus just destroyed a Gentile farmer's swine herd? Oofda. So what was Jesus doing? Well, I'll tell you. Jesus was accomplishing the impossible, no matter the cost. So with that as the backdrop, one can understand why the townsfolk demanded that Jesus leave. And they're freaked out because Jesus just freed this man that their attempts did nothing for. So they're angry, frustrated, and very, very scared. And yet, right there in front of them sat the formerly possessed man at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. Now, I refuse to believe, as some have said, that the townsfolk were so angry because they really wanted that man to stay possessed, right? There's some authors that write some of this stuff. In fact, I'd venture to say that it's possible they didn't even recognize this man because he was in clothes and not nuts. That man was there, sitting, calm, in his right mind. And he had been wild for so long, and now he's just sitting there. Jesus had acted for that man, simply to accomplish the absolutely impossible. Demons were out of the man. The demons were destroyed. The man is clothed in his right mind, sitting at the feet of a rabbi, learning. Now doing all of the things that while possessed were not even remotely possible. The people had been ever unsuccessful at chaining him amongst the tombs, and yet Jesus just exorcised the demons from him and more. For he had healed him, saved him, this one whom the world had cast aside and thrown away because there was nothing else that could be done for him. Why did Jesus do this? Because he loved him. What do you do with a person who is no longer the person they had been? What do you do with a person who is no longer the person that you thought they were? Sometimes we will initially keep people at arm's length to see if this change really is change. We're suspect. Sometimes we'll just look for the person we used to know to reappear in little glimpses. We keep looking for the little examples of that former person. And still other times we just can't understand them now. They don't fit the mold we had learned to create, and we move on from them. This man cried out, "What have you to do with me?" I wonder if maybe he could have said something like, "What can be done for me? What good am I?" Have you ever asked that question? What good am I? This is not a question necessarily arising from faithlessness, but instead could be a question of profound faith because you are trusting that Jesus does have an answer for you. And you're right. It's this: no matter the supposed cost, Christ accomplishes the impossible for you. Love, compassion, forgiveness, healing, exorcism, liberation, restoration, salvation are all yours. And in whatever tomb of death you are bound in, and whichever demon possesses you, Jesus has and will walk right through the legions of whatever barrier that is binding you, confining you to your supposed place, and shatter the shackles while proclaiming to the whole world that you are valued. You are clean and loved. You are forgiven, restored, redeemed. Because Christ accomplishes the impossible for you. It is what Saviors do, whatever the cost. Amen.